Thank you for joining us once again for PBA's Noon webinar. Before I go ahead and introduce today's presenter, I'd like to let you know first that next week, PBA will be going for gold. We have a week of webinars and interviews planned with several interesting gold exploration companies. Please be sure to follow us on social media and check your email for updates. Today we have with us from XORTX, the symbol is XRX on the Canadian Securities Exchange, Dr. Alan Davidoff, CEO, and joining us by phone will be Bruce Rowlands, Chairman of the Board. XORTX Therapeutics is a biopharmaceutical company with 3 clinically advanced products in development, and more interestingly, a possible antiviral treatment solution to combat the effects of COVID-19. Alan, welcome, and go ahead, please.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to present to your viewers. Let me switch to the slide deck and walk through what we believe is a exciting and interesting story that's developing with regard to COVID, but with regard to our kidney programs as well. So XORTX Therapeutics is a company focused on developing treatments for kidney disease. And that's been the case for the last several years as we focus on chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetic nephropathy and on polycystic kidney disease. Our name, XORTX, is an acronym for xanthine oxidase reducing technologies, and it really highlights the fact that we are focused on the deleterious effects that this enzyme, which normally produces uric acid in healthy individuals, can cause on kidneys when it goes out of control. The presentation contains forward-looking statements and projections based on the best information that we have at present and assumptions, and we seek safe harbor. So XORTX is developing therapies to treat declining kidney function by inhibiting the xanthine oxidase enzyme and lowering uric acid. All 3 of our programs are advanced late-stage clinical programs to meet unmet medical needs, and those needs are unmet not only in North America, but worldwide. Our first program, our flagship program, is in autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease. This is an orphan disease with about 150,000 individuals in the US. Our second program is in type 2 diabetic nephropathy, which has a very large unmet market. And recently we've added in 8 of those individuals with the risk of losing their kidneys to COVID infection, a separate program. We have 3 separate drugs under development, each of those programs for polycystic kidney disease and type 2 diabetic nephropathy, and recently COVID, are unique. Validating our programs further are a number of independently conducted phase 2 clinical trials that show that lowering uric acid can be a benefit in a variety of kidney diseases. And more specifically, in conjunction with Teijin Pharma, we announced a positive phase 2 result in the fall of last year that showed that in type 2 diabetic nephropathy patients, lowering uric acid can substantially and significantly decrease proteinuria in type 2 diabetic nephropathy patients. Now, this is important because proteinuria is one of the initial markers of kidney injury in those patients. We are also working on 2 areas, an orphan drug indication for polycystic kidney disease that we're hoping to enter into a phase 3 trial within the year. And recently we announced the initiation of a COVID-19 program that we hope will be in proof of concept trials within the year as well. All of this is made possible by an experienced management team that's developed oxypurinol, a xanthine oxidase inhibitor in the past, and verticalent while under development at Cardiome Pharma. In order to put our 3 programs in perspective, we're working in 2 separate classes of areas: chronic kidney disease like polycystic kidney disease and type 2 diabetic nephropathy, or in acute kidney disease as seems to be emerging with COVID-19. As I mentioned before, each of these programs has a separate drug program, and although there are similarities in the program between the ADPKD program and the COVID-19 program, these are individual formulations that are tailored for those patient populations. With respect to polycystic kidney disease, we know that there's approximately 150,000 individuals in the US and about 2.5 million individuals worldwide with this disease. It's an orphan disease, and with that program, one can achieve orphan drug designation, and so a 7-year exclusivity period for programs that are designated as orphans. Type 2 diabetic nephropathy has a much larger population of about 11 million individuals worldwide. That's about 170 million individuals. And in the next 12 years, that population is predicted to double. So this is a growing unmet medical need that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And then finally, with regards to the COVID-19 and acute kidney injury that's being observed, as early as this morning, there are reports that about 73,000 individuals have acute kidney injury as a result of their COVID-19 infection. We expect over the course of the next year to year and a half, as a wider breadth of population becomes infected, that this problem will grow exponentially worldwide and across North America. For polycystic kidney disease or type 2 diabetic nephropathy or COVID-19, a large number of patients see the progression either slowly in the case of the chronic diseases or more rapidly in terms of COVID-19, see themselves needing dialysis or transplantation to resolve their kidney issues. We know for programs like the polycystic kidney disease, there's only a single drug approved, that's tolvaptan. Reports are that its tolerability is poor. It also has been reported to increase uric acid. And from our standpoint, uric acid represents an independent risk factor for progression of this disease. And so we offer a solution to not only the larger progression of polycystic kidney disease, but the possible risk that tolvaptan provides. With regards to the type 2 diabetic nephropathy program, the only class of drugs that are approved for this space are the blood pressure lowering drugs, and they certainly don't address the need for uric acid lowering or xanthine oxidase inhibition. And with respect to COVID-19, we're unaware of any kidney disease company working in this space to provide protective therapies. So to summarize these programs, the polycystic kidney disease program is in preparation for a phase 3 registration trial in the near future. The type 2 diabetic nephropathy trial program is coming off of a positive phase 2 clinical trial result where proteinuria was decreased by xanthine oxidase inhibition. The next step is to look at glomerular filtration rate decline and the ability to slow or reverse that process in these patients. And then with regards to the COVID-19 acute kidney disease issue, we're in preparations for regulatory filings and with the intent of initiating a phase 3 proof of concept trial in the near future. So regardless of how you get to end-stage renal disease, the only solution besides transplantation is dialysis. And when one looks at the population of individuals who need dialysis, clearly almost half of those individuals come to dialysis because of diabetic nephropathy. about 5% because of polycystic kidney disease. And what we're seeing with COVID-19 is a rapidly emerging population of individuals. About 30% of patients who are hospitalized have acute kidney injury. The degree to which that kidney injury is harming kidneys is variable, but we do know from the latest reports is that about 1 in 7 individuals who are hospitalized will wind up on long-term dialysis. Now, dialysis helps you deal with your uric acid level in the blood, but it's not a durable solution. This study presented here shows that for individuals who enter dialysis today, their probability of surviving more than 2 years is less than 50%. So any therapy, like the therapies that we're developing to maintain and extend kidney health and avoid dialysis, not only provides better quality of life, but can potentially redefine the way that kidney treatments are delivered in the future. So there is a large unmet worldwide need for treatment of progressive kidney disease. Certainly, we know that the diabetic nephropathy population is growing, potentially doubling within the next 2 years, which means a doubling market. And certainly within the next 12 years, I should say. And certainly the emerging problem with acute kidney injury due to COVID-19 infection is also growing rapidly, and we really can't project at this point how large that number will be. Suffice it to say that we estimate right now there are approximately 20,000 individuals who need dialysis in the US. That's after 2 months of disease. And if one projects out for the next 12 to 18 months before a vaccination is available, one can see that that number will grow substantially compared to the 20,000 individuals, new individuals who need dialysis at present. So looking specifically at our programs in synopsis form, what we do know with chronic kidney disease due to polycystic kidney disease is that uric acid has been implicated very recently in not only the start of formation of cysts, but the acceleration of their growth. There is good evidence that as cysts grow, there is hypoxia, so starvation around the cyst area in healthy kidney, and that can potentially lead to increased xanthine oxidase expression and a rise in tissue injury, both intracellularly and extracellularly. There is good evidence that lowering xanthine oxidase activity by xanthine oxidase inhibition can lower uric acid and slow or reverse glomerular filtration rate decline, which is the FDA approvable endpoint. There are already very nice studies that show that uric acid is an independent risk factor for progression of disease and for progression of total kidney volume. And a nice study published in 2015 by Hahn et al. That shows that we can potentially reverse or slow the decline in glomerular filtration rate, providing a therapy that would stabilize individuals' kidneys. Our best projections of the financial modeling for this indication suggest that in the US, peak sales of approximately 1.8 billion per year can be achieved, and worldwide that number is approximately 4 billion. For the COVID-19 program to treat acute kidney injury in these patients, these numbers are rapidly changing and in flux. The best data we have today suggests that approximately 80% of individuals who become infected have few symptoms. However, about 16% need to be hospitalized. About 10% of those individuals, about 10% of all infection of those individuals who show up at hospital have proteinuria, which is the first sign of kidney involvement and kidney injury. And the best data we have at present suggests that about 5% may have acute kidney injury that leads to a need to dialysis. What we believe is the program XRX 101 that we recently announced can interfere with not only the injury to lungs, but the injury, the accumulating injury that might arise as a result of inflammatory activity due to the lung infection, breakdown of muscle cells due to ongoing and uncontrolled fever, and those accumulating cell components that tend to overload and injure not only the kidney but other organs. Although a rough estimate, our financial modeling suggests that peak sales for this program in the US could reach 0.5 billion per year, and certainly worldwide that would be approximately 1 billion per year. With regards to the type 2 diabetic nephropathy program, as I mentioned before, we have been working on the design of the phase 2B trial to look at the benefit of uric acid lowering on declining glomerular filtration rate. Again, that's the FDA approvable endpoint. And our projections suggest that peak revenue for this program could reach 2.4 billion per year with the current numbers of individuals that are out there. What we expect is that this, based on the projections that are in current publications, that population could double, and so these peak sale numbers might be an underestimate. So with regards to the action items that we need to accomplish in order to advance these programs for the polycystic kidney disease program, we recently announced manufacturing of drug for that program. We have final regulatory documents to finalize once we have stability data from that manufacturing. That would lead us to a short 3-month bioavailability bioequivalence study, and then directly on to a pivotal phase 3 study. With regards to the type 2 diabetic nephropathy program, we have manufacturing discussions in place. Manufacturing is set to start shortly. That would lead us to a phase 2B proof of concept in type 2 diabetic nephropathy programs with progressive kidney disease. And with regards to the XRX 101 program for COVID-19 infection, this is very similar in terms of the next steps, the critical path steps to develop this drug for this patient population. We announced manufacturing of drug. We have pre-IND and other regulatory documents to file. That would either lead us to a compassionate use type trial or to a pivotal phase 3 study. Both of these trials would be short in terms of the treatment period for patients. Which path we choose would be determined by our upcoming discussions with the FDA. So the company has advanced clinical trials in 3 separate kidney disease programs. 2 are at the phase 3 level and 1 is at the phase 2B level. Our market capitalization at present is $11 million. We currently have 81 million shares issued with approximately 85% tightly held. We have 18 million warrants issued, 2 million options. So fully diluted, we have about 102 million issued securities instruments. We're publicly listed on the CSE, on the OTCQB board, and on the Bourse in Frankfurt. And our longer term plan is for a New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ listing, mostly driven by the fact that we have advanced clinical programs in an area where there are a few opportunities. So unique kidney programs addressing large market opportunities and orphan market opportunities. The orphan market is interesting because along with the grant of the orphan marketing approval, you get a 7-year monopoly in the US, 10 in Europe and Japan, and premium pricing. And so these markets, while they have smaller populations, can be equal to larger market opportunities. We have a strong and growing intellectual property portfolio with a granted patent to protect the use of xanthine oxidase inhibitors for the treatment of diabetic nephropathy. We recently filed a prophetic patent for COVID-19 and have several other patent development programs that are growing and advancing towards filing. Both independent and initial clinical studies conducted by ourselves and conducted by others show that this process of lowering uric acid and inhibiting xanthine oxidase can have true benefit for individuals with progressive kidney disease. And so as a result of our experienced management team in developing oxypurinol and other drug programs and discussions with the FDA regarding oxypurinol, we feel that we have accelerated development pathways for not only the autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease program, but also for the COVID program as well. Thank you for your attention, and I guess we're ready to answer questions.
We are. So we have a couple of questions, and just so that everybody knows, we also have Bruce Rowlands has joined us on the line. Bruce, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Excellent.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna go ahead with the questions. So
Okay.
we have here, what are your next milestones with approximate timelines?
Right, so let me go back to this slide. Can everyone see those slides again?
Yes, they're still on screen.
Yes.
Yeah, so for the polycystic kidney disease program and for the COVID program, the initial first steps are quite similar. We are, we've initiated the manufacture of drug. We're looking to file final regulatory documents and meet with the FDA on both accounts to advance those programs, and that would lead us into a clinical trial within the next 12 months. At least that's our best projection at present.
Excellent. We have a question here. Who financed you? That's a bit.
Our initial seed financing was done with friends and family and the Raymond James office in Vancouver. Our RTO, which was completed in January of 2018, included Canaccord Genuity support.
Excellent. Another comment here from Zach, always great one. Thank you, very excited about your work. A couple of questions, and you'll have to excuse me if I get the pronunciation wrong, Alan. Isn't allopurinol already indicated in diabetic nephropathy? How does oxy and allo compare with respect to adverse reactions?
Right. Well, great question. Allopurinol is recommended for the treatment of gout only. The U.S. monograph includes a warning that it's not to be used for any other purpose than gout. We know through the development of oxypurinol over the last decade, as our team developed it as a replacement for allopurinol, that it's better. Much better tolerated than allopurinol. So oxypurinol has true advantages for developing in new formulations and into a market where one would imagine taking the drug orally for the rest of your life, as would be the case with polycystic kidney disease or with type 2 diabetic nephropathy.
Okay. Here's another question. Who are your competitors? Who else works on controlling uric acid?
Right. Well, there are two approved drugs for controlling uric acid in the setting of gout, and those are allopurinol and febuxostat. Those are xanthine oxidase inhibitors. Now, there are uricosuric agents which decrease the reuptake of uric acid that are also out there. However, these drugs tend to increase the prevalence of kidney stones, which are a concern in both polycystic kidney disease and in type 2 diabetic nephropathy. So a lot of physicians are reticent to use those drugs as uric acid lowering agents in those areas.
Okay. Any analyst coverage yet?
No.
At present, we have no analyst coverage.
Okay. 2 questions. Would revenue follow after approval in 2023? Has there been any interest from a larger company on a takeout?
Excellent question. We have,
I'll help
yeah. So why don't you go ahead, Bruce, if you want to jump in.
Okay. I mean, we have a significant level of interest across, essentially all of the components of the broader biopharma world, which is to say, large companies, specialty companies, regional companies. And it's important to remember when you're looking at our opportunity, we're going to be licensing these programs out. And we already currently, how many pharma companies we got under CDA? Something pushing 20 at the moment now?
Yeah, it's
like
in that neighborhood and growing.
Yeah. So we're working to build as much value in this company as we can, obviously. But our opportunity is to license these programs out. And, I'm not going to give you any specific terms because there really aren't any, but the ballpark is, hundreds of millions of dollars of upfront money and a royalty over the life of the product. So the shareholders aren't have to wait until these products are actually on the market. Our market is the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical, companies, their market is the patients. We're not dealing with the patients. We're drug developers, not drug marketers.
Okay, excellent. So we have, this comes up a couple of times, obviously. What is your cash position, and do you have any revenue streams to help you carry out your project?
I'll let you take that.
Right. So we just closed a financing of about $2.5 million. We, as every biotech company would attest, need to raise funds to move forward on a regular basis to advance these programs. I think that's.
I can point out.
Sorry, go ahead.
We raised $2.5 million. We raised $2 million when we did the RTO. I've been on the board for 7 years. In 7 years, we've gone through approximately $6 million out.
Yeah, roughly.
To develop 3 first-in-class drugs in an unmet medical need, going into pivotal studies. I think it's safe to say that the company is significantly undervalued. Al's right. Biotech companies are always looking for financing. We don't have any revenue streams currently. The first revenue stream will arrive in the form of a licensing agreement with the pharma company. So that's just to reiterate that point.
Okay. Is there any evidence for renal microinfractions as being a part of the pathology in COVID associated with renal disease? If so, wouldn't an anticoagulation be more likely, a more likely strategy than UA lowering?
Right. So there's 2 issues here. What's emerging with the COVID-19 data from reports from China and from the US is that several things are happening. There's a lung infection that potentially leads to acute respiratory distress syndrome. Fever seems to be driving rhabdomyolysis, so breakdown of muscle tissue, not only of cardiac muscle tissue and of skeletal muscle tissue, which can release, both of which can release cellular components into the system. What happens when cells break down and they're released into the system is they can start a coagulation cascade, as the question alludes to, but serum gets supersaturated with uric acid, and those crystals can also accumulate, and and other cell components can accumulate in the kidney and overwhelm it. And so while coagulation may be helpful, and there's some indication that it is, there is a larger issue with cell components and certainly uric acid crystalluria, which causes its own form of acute injury, and that needs to be addressed as well. So we think that there's a combination of that. Our best reports are unpublished discussions with clinicians both in New York and in Colorado suggests that many of these patients are showing very high levels of uric acid as they get into crisis. And what we're seeing is that, and in fact, the report out this morning is that 37% of individuals within 24 hours of hospitalization have acute kidney injury. And so there's an enormous issue. Now, with regard to microinfarctions, we don't know. It's likely that every vascular bed has infarctions: heart, brain, kidney, lungs, liver, you name it. But I think the answer is that a dual approach is better.
Okay, we're a little short on time, so I'm going to try and group these questions together. How close are you to handle kidney damage control for COVID patients? And is it eligible for fast track approval?
Yeah, so I think the answer is we can have a GMP manufactured drug within 6 to 7 months. The true timeline will be dictated by our meetings with the FDA. So sometime after 7 months would be the best answer.
Okay. And what's your estimated cash requirements for the phase 3 pivotal study, and how will you raise the cash?
Right. So if that's alluding to the polycystic kidney disease, our best estimates is that we'll need something in the neighborhood of $22 million to run that phase 3 trial in polycystic kidney disease. The trial for COVID, which we're projecting is either a compassionate use trial or a pivotal trial, a pivotal phase 3 trial, is only treating individuals, is projected to only treat individuals for 30 days. And so that trial is much shorter in terms of its design, so the cost would be much less than that.
Al, you might just mention that, the CTAP and the BARDA programs, because that's really where the heart of all this is, located.
Right. So we have filed a number of non-dilutive grant applications to BARDA and to the NIH. We have reached out to BARDA and the Coronavirus Treatment Acceleration Program with a request for a meeting, and that is pending. And certainly, we are looking at the accelerated emergency IND process. But again, we haven't talked to the FDA yet, so that's somewhere in the docket. But that's the route that we're pursuing.
Excellent. So I think that about wraps up our time. Paul, did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask Alan? Oh, Paul, there's no volume. There you go. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Go ahead.
Yep.
Does your drug reverse or just halt the progress of kidney disease?
Conservatively speaking, it looks like it slows the progress. There are independently conducted phase 2 clinical trials that show that it reverses the process slightly. Now,
Okay.
that's statistical evidence. It would suggest that for more than 50% of individuals, they see reversal, but again, a lot of clinical work needs to be done. It does look like we can stabilize the progression, and so that would imply that for every year of treatment, we can buy a year away from dialysis or off of dialysis. So that's a huge improvement compared to nothing available.
And can you use your drug to prevent kidney problems? Can this be taken as like a normal course?
Prophylactically.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's an approvable condition. I think you need to show, what we see is that there's a very close criteria for selecting the right patients. And so those patients need to have progressing kidney disease that's well defined, and they need to have increased uric acid levels. For those patients, they'll benefit, but for other patients who don't have progressing kidney disease or just have early stage diabetic nephropathy, there isn't enough data to really make that call or comment on that. But certainly for those progressing, I think we can change the outcome. At least that's what we're working on.
And for everybody out there that's listening in, and this will be on the video that when we post it on YouTube, how can I test myself to see if I have kidney problems? Is it a simple blood test or?
Well, yeah, so your physician can test things like uric acid levels. They can test your creatinine level. They can test your estimate your glomerular filtration rate. All of those are indicators of where your kidney is at. Certainly the risk factors for kidney disease are type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, polycystic kidney disease diagnoses. And so whatever the initiating disease, then one would want to monitor those types of measures. But I'm not a physician. I'm a PhD researcher, and so please don't take this as medical advice.
I have one last question. You have warrants outstanding. Are any of them close to in the money or in the money for potential revenue?
The strike,
potential cash.
the exercise price on all of those warrants is 25 cents.
All
So
right,
I'm not sure where we're trading this morning. We have bumped off 27 in recent weeks. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much today, Alan. This has been very interesting, obviously. And there's a lot of people out there with kidney problems in dialysis. I'm sure this is going to help them.
Did you see, Paul, the article this morning from Reuters? Did that get in your hands yet?
Yeah,
I'm going to be sending that out to all of the attendees today so that they can have a look.
It'll be out on our
Yeah, I mean,
this is the single best article out there defining how large and how rapidly growing this crisis is for kidney injury due to COVID. So it's a good article.
Well, Alan and Bruce, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thanks to all who attended and listened in. And next week, it'll be a full week of going for the gold. So please stay tuned. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Right, so long.
Bye for now.